Have you been keeping yourself so busy that you don't have time to tackle that project? You know, the project I'm talking about, the one that you feel so overwhelmed by that you will do anything just so you can avoid it. But guess what? One of these days you're going to have to stop running and you will have to tackle it. Hi, my name is Ivana Katz and I build websites that build businesses. I work with small business entrepreneurs and startups, helping to guide them online to get their website up and running as quickly as possible and at the most affordable price. You can think of me as your business co-pilot. And in today's video, I want to talk to you about how to manage large projects. The projects I'm talking about are things like designing a website or maybe setting up an online course, or perhaps you've been wanting to write a book or tackle those taxes. Now, before we get started, I want to share a story with you. Few years ago, I was faced with having to redesign my own website. And I was so overwhelmed because my previous website had over 200 pages and I had to learn new technology. But the problem was my livelihood depended on it. And so I was stuck between a rock and a hard place. I had to get it done, but I was resisting it. Until one day I got a phone call from a friend, and that's when everything changed. He shared with me the tips that I'm going to share with you today to make the project management a lot easier and less overwhelming. So the first thing that he suggested was that I sit down and write all the steps that I had to complete to finish the project. And so I spent a few days planning my website, including the website content, images, the technology. And after a few days, I had a solid plan. The other thing that my friend suggested is that I only tackle one thing on the list until it's done. Because if you're jumping all over the place, you lose momentum. So I followed his footsteps, and 6 weeks later, my website was finished. Now, I was very disciplined during those 6 weeks, and every day I would spend 1 to 2 hours just working on the website. Now, being a single parent, I also had to do my work for my clients and marketing and take care of everything else. But just putting aside an hour or two a day meant that I got to complete the whole project in bite-sized pieces, and I wasn't so overwhelmed. Now, the second thing that my friend suggested is that I get tools that will help me manage the project. Now, there are many excellent tools, but a lot of them are often for large projects that have big teams, and I was the only one. Now, if you have a team and you are facing a big project, then perhaps look at things like Asana or Trello or Basecamp or Monday. But being on my own, I needed something simple, something that I could update easily on my computer, on my mobile, on my laptop. And I found a tool called Todoist. And Todoist allows me to add things to the list on the go. I could do it while I was shopping if I could think of another item that I needed to add to the list. So it was very easy to use, and everything syncs up between all your devices. Now, the third thing that my friend suggested that I do is to find people that will help support me through the different steps. And well, it depends on the project that you're handling, but it may mean calling on the help from your family, your friends, or other businesses. And you may have to pay for the advice or for somebody to do certain parts of the project. But when you've got it all laid out in front of you, it makes it so much easier. So fast forward about 3 years after I completed my website, I was faced with another huge project. But this time I felt so much better equipped at handling this project because of what I had done in the past. You see, in 2017, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And whilst I had to undergo many treatments, including surgery, chemotherapy, and radiation, when I came out on the other end, I was invited to speak at a business conference. And I was really excited because nobody had invited me to speak before. But I was also terrified because I had never spoken at a conference before, and I was terrified of public speaking. But I knew that if I let the opportunity go, I would always regret it. And so I decided to follow the steps that my friend suggested all those years before. I sat down and I wrote all the challenges that I was facing. I found tools that helped me manage that project. And I found people that helped to support me while I was preparing for this presentation. So some of the challenges that I faced were, well, the paralyzing fear of public speaking. That was my number one fear. And I found a couple of friends who were used to doing presentations, and I picked their brains, and they were super helpful and they helped me prepare. My next problem that I faced was I was suffering from something called chemo brain. Now, this is where your brain is really foggy and you can't remember your name. And I was going to have to remember a 45-minute presentation. I didn't know how I was going to tackle that. But then I realized if I practice, that presentation would become ingrained in my brain. And that's what I did. Every single day at 9 o'clock, I would sit down and I would practice the presentation. Anyway, the next challenge I was facing, was I couldn't stand up for more than 5 minutes. The chemotherapy and radiation treatments have left me feeling really weak, and I didn't know what I was going to do, how I was going to manage to stand on my feet for 45 minutes. And so I decided to contact the organizers from the conference, and I asked them to have a stool or a chair on the stage in case I needed to sit down or lean on it. And of course, they were happy to oblige. And funnily enough, I never even ended up using it, but just knowing that the stool was there for me gave me peace of mind. The next challenge that I was facing, I had lost about 70% of my hair, and the presentation was being filmed, and I was worried that people could tell that what I was wearing wasn't my hair, or only part of it was my hair. And so I called on my hairdresser, and she helped to style my hairpiece so that it looked natural. So that was a big tick off my list. The next part of the challenge was figuring out how the technology works. I've never held a microphone. I didn't know how clickers work, the ones that change slides. And so I ordered one on eBay. And so when I was practicing my presentation, I got comfortable with the technology. And finally, the day of the presentation came, and I nailed it. I was so excited because I tackled a project that I was so overwhelmed, and that I was so fearful of at a time when I was at my weakest. And that has given me so much confidence in moving forward with my business. I hope you have found these tips useful in tackling that big project that you have to manage or organize. Remember, if you're feeling tired, just walk away for a half an hour or a day or even a week. Just give yourself a break, but be very consistent and deliberate about the steps that you take every single day. And before you know it, that project will be done.